So here we are back at hypertension or high blood pressure. Look at this, a no added salt diet. You'll sometimes see that abbreviated in a medical chart as capital NAS, no added salt. That is 4 grams of sodium or 4,000 milligrams, almost double the RDA recommendation of 2,300. So it basically just means no salt added at the table. More often we'll see a 2-gram NA diet, which is 2 grams of sodium diet, or about 2,000 milligrams. And that's pretty typical at a long-term care facility, somebody with a stroke, high blood pressure. Or we can see the 1,500 milligrams of sodium, and that's a current American Heart Association recommendation. We like to encourage the DASH diet, which stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. And your book has a really nice listing of the food groups needed for meeting the requirements of the DASH diet. I believe it's on page 148. Basically reducing sodium and increasing potassium, fruits, veggies, low-fat milk, whole grains, poultry, fish, nuts, limiting red meat, sweet sugar containing beverages. A sodium-controlled diet can be very challenging. Look at different flavors, different herbs and spices, salt substitutes if they don't have those renal requirements. And then talk to your clients about different recipes that you like or that you've tried and have those at the ready for them to try as well. CHF, congestive heart failure. So congestive heart failure is caused by atherosclerosis and hypertension. That leads to muscle weakness. The heart has to work harder and gets bigger, beats faster, becomes enlarged. That leads to fluid retention, and the body fails to deliver adequate oxygen to the body's tissues. Okay, so typically we'll see a sodium restriction with this and a fluid restriction of 20 cc's or 20 milliliters per kilogram of body weight. And if this is not controlled, we could develop a condition called cardiac cachexia, CACHEXIA. And we have limb weakness, fatigue, significant weight loss, tissue wasting, and it's secondary to decreased appetite, decreased energy, decreased food intake, and an increased metabolic rate just to keep up with working through all that fluid. So typically with CHF, we'll see fluid restricted and sodium restricted diets. So we move from the heart to the lungs. And the first condition in the lungs that we're going to talk about is COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. And chronic obstructive pulmonary disease is a group of diseases. 90% of the time is caused by smoking. And oftentimes we'll see malnutrition due to loss of appetite and increased calorie needs. Why this happens is the body works harder to breathe. Increased calorie needs are going up as breathing requires a conscious effort. And we may increase resting energy expenditure by 10 to 15%. And we can see significant malnutrition with COPD. Loss of appetite, taste changes, GI distress, and energy needs increase significantly due to breathing. What we see here is adding vitamin A and C. And I'm going to go back to the last slide. I forgot to highlight this here. Higher fat, lower carbohydrate diet. And the reason for that is a higher carbohydrate diet, the body uses more oxygen and produces more carbon dioxide. That makes breathing harder. So the high-fat diet uses less oxygen and therefore less carbon dioxide is produced. So really goes against traditional recommendations. So COPD or breathing issues, we typically see a higher fat, lower carb diet, maybe a fluid restriction as well.